Hello. So I remembered what it was that I was forgetting to show you. And it was opacity. So when I made this shape, it's solid, and I made these, playing with the opacity of these. So if I bring this above, um, object, arrange, bring to the front, you can see how that plays with that. Well, you can also play with the opacity of the shape that you make. So here I have played with the opacity of this odd shape here. I made it 41%, and I can put it on top of this flower shape here. Now this flower shape is still 100%, and I can play with the opacity of that. However, you want to look at what you're doing with the layers of materials. So this um, pattern, it's very interesting, the pattern on the paper. So it's cool the way it's playing with the lines in there. You know, if I move it around little increments, you can see how it duplicates. But I'm losing that silhouette of the flower, so I think it's nice to leave the flower at 100% and bring this more amorphous shape to the front and have that be the part that's got a transparent quality to it. Okay, so you can play with the opacity of these objects that you're creating, as well as and the scans that you're creating, rather than just playing with these shapes here. Okay, and this shape here as well that we created, if we play with the opacity on that, you know, that could make an interesting um, pattern and feel to it. Okay, so now what I want to show you is this image. I have placed this black and white image in here, and I am going to go and create the shape that I want to place it in. I'm dragging my cursor over both so both are selected and the shape is on top, and I am going to say clipping mask make. So this could be a very interesting texture, but it's black and white. It doesn't have this color to it, this life. Well, you can actually make it a color. So I can go to just pick any one of these colors and make the art that color. I can also go to my CMYK and play with that. Oops, I wasn't selected there. I need to actually select it so I can make it all different colors, so then I can also copy it and paste it slowly, right? So I can play with having a very different color, and then I can actually make this transparent as well. So there you can see the two different colors coming through. So now this works because this is a black and white image. It will not work with this. I cannot take this image and change it to, I'm sorry, not playing with the right thing. I cannot change the color of that image, okay? So it only works with the black and white scan. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So you can, you know, this has a very interesting texture, and you can imagine if you were doing an underwater sea thing, but perhaps you're doing a cityscape. So you could be taking black and white photographs or a color photograph of the city and making it black and white so that you can do an interesting contour cut of, you know, a city skyline, and you're actually placing in it a photograph of the skyline. So you've got these different layers and textures going on. I have scanned some text from the newspaper, and I scanned it and I put it in front of a window. It's better to photograph it in front of a window during daylight. If you try to do it underneath a lamp, you tend to get the color of your this shadow of your phone. So I have a scanner at home that I was using, you know, one of those printers that does scanning and all that. But so I did a photograph just so you can see you don't need to be limited by having a camera, so by having a scanner. So this was photographed, and so you can see it's quite shadowed here. So play with how the light is hitting it. So here it's got the shadow, and you can see it's more intense with the green than it is with the pink. So depending on what color you take and how dark you make it, that can have an effect. Another thing that I did here was this one here. So the way this one's grainy, this has even more of an effect. And if I enlarged it a lot, that graininess might come through. I could actually, you can see how grainy it is without even having the text. So you could get a texture just by playing with a piece of white paper and playing with the grayscale, which I am going to show that to you right now. So I hope that you guys, when you are able to download your Adobe software, I hope you can get the whole suite. I'm not sure if you're limited because you're in Vectorworks, if you can just vector class, that you can only use a vector program, meaning Illustrator. Assuming that you have Photoshop, I'm going to show you how to do this, okay? So I have taken a photograph, it's a color photograph, and then I emailed it to myself and I opened it up in in Photoshop, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I am going to switch this to a grayscale. So you can see its color here because there's a little bit of yellow in there. There's different colors in there. So watch what happens when I make it grayscale. That was my daughter entering the room in her high heel shoes, trying to be very discreet. So here you can see that I lost all that color in there. So this is a grayscale file. And then I can save it a couple different ways. I experimented. I can save it as a TIFF, a Photoshop, or a JPEG. So the JPEG will take up less memory than the TIFF or the Photoshop. TIFF takes up a lot of memory. So you can just save that as a JPEG file, and that will work, okay? Now the next step I'm going to do is I am going to save it as a bitmap. Let me zoom in here so you can see what the difference is when I save this. So this is grayscale, which means that it's shades of black and white and gray. And then when I make it bitmap, it just turns it all to black and white. Zoom in here again. So notice this actually is black and white. It's all pixels that are smaller or larger. There's no gray in here. It's just black and white. And so that's what's giving that texture. And this one you can save as a PNG. So when you save as, you will have the option to save it as a PNG. So PNG. So that will take up less information. Okay. Saving slowly. Okay. I've already saved it as that, so I'm going to cancel that and then go back into Illustrator. So now, again, you just place those images that I've placed here. So here was that bitmap PNG. So there you go, and it's already transparent. Isn't that cool? I didn't even realize that was going to happen. But I guess because it's black and white, you see that right through there. So you don't even need to play with the transparency on this. But let's see what happens if we play with the transparency. There's something, it's slowly working into my computer here. So the transparent effect here, So yep, so I can play with the transparency, but it's already transparent when I loaded it in here because whatever was white was see-through. So that is, that's giving a lot of texture. So this was a surprise for me when I just dumped it in there to see how much texture and the transparency of that. So you can have fun with doing all sorts of things with texture, okay? So now I am going to end this video and I'm going to come back and show you another technique that is using image trace.